Okay, this is the second video for law of sines. We talked about the ratios that you can set up, as well as how to solve angle side situation and an angle side angle situation. There's also an ambiguous case called side angle. So if you have two sides in an angle, it might be possible to solve it. It might be possible that there's not a triangle. And actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this here, make this h equals c sine of a, because then it's going to make more sense with the diagram. But it definitely works the other way depending on what side you're given. We need to find our height by doing c sine of a. And then we need to compare. If h is equal to our a, then it's a right triangle and you can solve it using SOHCAHTOA like you did in geometry. If a is less than h, it's not possible to have a triangle. If a is between h and c, it's possible to have two triangles. And if a is greater than or equal to c, it is only possible to have one triangle. So we have a few cases here. We're going to look at the first one and the last two here, because you can solve a right triangle. Okay, so just like we did in the last video, I'm going to start by drawing a triangle and labeling what I know and kind of going from there. So for this problem, I'm going to start by labeling A, B, and C. So A is 43 degrees. B, I don't have. C, I don't have. I have side A, which is 81. I have side B, which is 62. And I don't have side C. So if you look back at the diagram, we have h equals b sine of a, which is what we're given here. So 62 times sine of 43 degrees. And our height ends up being 42.3. Okay, since our height is less than A, and A is greater than B, we know we can have one triangle. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and solve that. We need to find angle A, angle B, angle C, and side C. So we're going to do angle B first. So I know that side B is 62 degrees. I don't know angle B. I know side A is 81. Sorry, side B is not 62 degrees, it's just 62. And then sine of 43 degrees for angle A. And when I solve this one, if I multiply by sine of B on both sides, I need to multiply by the reciprocal on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to, you can flip those if it makes it easier to solve. So sine of B over 62 equals sine of 43 degrees over 81. If that makes it easier to cross multiply, that's fine. We get sine of B equals 62 times sine of 43 degrees over 81. Type that in your calculator. You get sine of B equals 0.522. And this is where the inverse sign in your calculator comes in handy. So second sign to find the actual angle measure. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode, otherwise it will really mess you up. And we find that angle B is 31.5 degrees. Okay. Once I have two angles, really easy to find the third, we're going to find angle C by taking the other two angles, the sum of the other two angles, and subtracting it from 180, which ends up giving me 105.5 degrees. So I'm going to label that. And then I can go ahead and find side C using that same ratio. So C is going to be sine of 105.5 degrees equals, we'll do A, so 81 over sine of 43 degrees. multiply by sine of 105.5 on both sides. Type this in your calculator. You should get that side C is equal to 114.4. Okay. Similar process, only difference is we only have one angle, so we have to do a little bit more work to find our angles than we would typically. So we're going to go ahead and do the next problem. And we're going to label this and then find our height. So start with the shape, draw your triangle, label it. So A is 57 degrees, B we don't know, C we don't know, A is 51, B is 71, and C we don't know. So we are going to find height equals B times sine of A. So when I type that in my calculator, 71 times sine of 57 gives me 59.5. Okay, since A is less than my height, 59, so 51 is less than 59.5. That is this first case on our triangle right here. A is less than your height, so we actually can't do that one. There's no triangle possible. Okay, so our answer is no triangle possible. Let's do one more where we have to check our height. We're going to go ahead and draw a shape in here. And you could probably guess that we're going to have two triangles, but we'll start with one. And we're going to label what we know. So this time I have A, which is 40 degrees. Don't know B, don't know C. Side A is 54. Side B is 62. We don't know side C. So H equals B times sine of A. And when we type that in our calculator, our height ends up being 39.9. Okay, so our height is definitely less than A, so let's look back at that table. If height is less than A, and then this should be, in our case, this would be a B here. So if A is between the height and the B, let's check it. A is between our height and our B. That means there's two triangles. Okay, so we are going to start by finding angle B. Okay. So I'm going to flip the fraction over. So sine of B is going to be over 62. That will equal sine of 40 degrees over 54. Okay, multiply by 62, I get sine of B equals 62 times sine of 40 degrees divided by 54. And I get sine of B equals 0.738. Okay, do inverse sine. So sine to the -1 or second sine in your calculator, make sure it's in degree. And I get 48 degrees. Okay, here's the catch. If you use 48 degrees for a reference angle, we can go ahead and label this triangle. A is 40, side A is 54. This is not a very accurate triangle here. B is 62, don't know C, don't know C. Now, B here is 48, but there's also a reference angle, or using that as a reference angle, there's also another angle that is less than 180 degrees. That could be possible. So if I do 180 minus 132, or minus 48, I get 132 degrees. Okay, so we need to actually solve for both these triangles. I'm going to finish up the blue one and then we'll work on the red one here. So for this blue triangle, I was using purple, we can now do angle C is equal to 180 minus 40 plus 48. So we end up getting angle C is 92. And then we can do C over sine of angle C, which is 92, equals A, 54, over sine of A, which is 40 degrees, and cross multiply. So C is going to equal 54 times sine of 92 degrees over sine of 40 degrees. Type that in your calculator. You get side C is equal to 84. Okay, so I'm going to kind of split this a little bit. Excuse me, I started sneezing. Okay, so back to the red triangle. Excuse me. Okay, back to the red triangle. If we use this 132 and 40, we can find angle C by subtracting 40 plus 132 from 180, and we end up getting 8 degrees. So it's a really small angle, which is why I said it's not very accurate because of the way I drew it. And then we can find side C by doing sine of 8 degrees. And that equals A, which is 54, over sine of 40. And if you type in 54 times sine of 8 divided by sine of 40, make sure it's in degree mode, you end up getting 11.7 there. Okay, and that's your ambiguous case. Last problem, I'm going to go ahead and set up and I'll let you go ahead and solve it. There's a fire situation here, and this is a common application problem, which really isn't a good application problem, but we're going to use it just so you can get used to drawing this. And I don't want that triangle. We'll do this one. Okay, so imagine, I don't really want that one either. All right. Imagine there's a fire on a peak. So it looks like this. We have A and we have B, and then there's your fire up here. And these are 20 miles apart, with station B directly east of station A. The bearing from station A to the fire is actually here, so 50 degrees. And for B, it's here, which is 36 degrees. So we need to, before we can figure out the answer to the question, we need to figure out 90 minus 50 is 40, and 90 minus 36 is 54. And then you can go ahead and use that to find how far to the nearest tenth of a mile is station A. So we're going to find this by doing law of sines. We can figure out this angle measure is 86. So we're going to do 20 over sine of 86 equals x over sine of 54. And that will give you your total distance, and I'll let you figure that one out on your own. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Don't hesitate. Stay safe, be well, hope everything's good. I'll chat with you at some point. Have a good day.